All right, we're on the air. It is Thursday, August 24th, and we're going to talk about outreach for Backdrop. So the general goal for this meeting is to try and figure out what we can do to get more people talking about Backdrop. I feel like at this point we have a really solid product, and we just need to kind of get the word out more. So we have a list here of things that we think we can do, things that developers thought up that we should do to help people talk about Backdrop. So if you have experience in marketing or thoughts that are not on this agenda, please let us know. We're doing the best we can, but we don't really know what we're doing. So we'll run through the items we have, and then hopefully at the end we can talk about things we don't know that we should also be talking about. So for starters, the first thing on our to-do list is to send regular newsletters. We have this great mailing list of people who subscribed when we first launched Backdrop and have been continually adding themselves over time. People are interested in what's going on. We're not doing a very good job of telling them what's going on. Backdrop 144 released this past week, and so now is the time to tell everybody to try Backdrop 1.4. 1.44 was a bug fixing release that we didn't want to send the newsletter until it went out, until after we were sure nobody would try Backdrop and find some horrible problem with it. So I have a draft of that newsletter that I probably made like a month and a half ago, which definitely needs to be updated, and we can review that today and send it out, which is good. But bigger picture, it would be great if we could find somebody to be responsible for newsletters and have interesting things to tell people, and that we send the newsletter out ideally once a month would be great. So if anyone knows anyone who's good at newsletters, or anyone who knows anyone who's interested in learning how to do newsletters, it's really easy. We use MailChimp. It doesn't require any serious development skills. They have great templates. It doesn't really require any experience with MailChimp because they make it pretty straightforward. We just need somebody who has time available to think about it and interest in actually doing the thing. So definitely something we are keeping our ears open for. If anybody wants to do that, we're not being very good at it. Having someone own it, I think, would make it much better. Another thing that we need to be a little bit better at is writing blog posts on backdropcms.org. We've done a pretty good job since the beginning of the year of being pretty diligent about finding things and having people write posts. I think the more voices on the blog, the better. So anyone who has anything to say about Backdrop, whether they're part of our community yet or not, if it's just somebody who's like, oh, I tried it, and here's what I think that would also be really valuable. And anyone who can do any blogging on sites that aren't backdropcms.org is also really useful. So if we have people who could write a blog post on CiviCRM, I noticed Jack added that, either on our site or on Civi's site, and we have talked to them a little bit about how to do a little cross-promotion. Of course, it's developers talking to developers, so neither one of us are like super motivated to actually make it happen, but we're like, yeah, it's a good idea. So we're all at least on the same page about it being a good idea. Jack, do you want to talk a little bit more about that, or was that?
Yeah, actually, okay. I figure it's a good time to, in general, say that the folks at CiviCRM were reaching out to folks at Palante about getting Backdrop involved. And I know they're in touch with y'all as well directly, Nate and Jen. So I know they're directly in touch. But it seemed like because we need blog posts, it might be good to cross-post something just about CiviCRM and Backdrop working together. I know that I have been wanting to write a few different blog posts, and a few of them I think have passed their due date. So I want to let those go. But this seems like something that folks have energy around, and it could help to inspire some last-minute polish or some final touches on the CiviCRM port to Backdrop. So seems good.
That would be great. And I know I haven't worked on it for a while. But there are a couple people in the CiviCRM project issue queue you should also reach out to and see if they want to be, mentioned at the very least, and be like, we want to thank you for your support. Like, is there anything you want to add? And see if we can get a little support that way. I feel like it would be good to kind of thank the people who are doing all of the work, but I don't know if they want to be any more involved in that.
Okay, yeah, I can reach out to some folks about that. With them, I can either write it, or it seemed like maybe one of my coworkers was being volunteered to write it, but I think he might be even more overloaded than me, so we'll see who does it. And since I can post to the blog, I can I can either get it up there or maybe run it by y'all. What's the like editorial process for publishing
We
stuff?
don't really have an editorial process for the most part. We trust people. So I would say write the blog post. If you want someone to read it, just like post in Gitter, like, hey, someone read this over. Just make sure there aren't any typos or whatever. But, you know, if you have editorial access, we obviously trust you. So
Cool.
do what you think is good. And if you want, I don't think everybody has permission to create a blog post. So if you want to create one and then change the author to your coworkers so they can edit it, that's also totally fine. Just make sure that when you first do that, don't make it published because it'll automatically appear up everywhere.
Sounds good. Cool. All right, will do. And yeah, I'll keep y'all posted on that. And I have another thing further down the list about city stuff.
Okay, that's great. Also, I was thinking, Brian, for those of you who don't know, Brian is the manager of the bootfitters.com site, which was my first public backdrop site, which was really exciting. First, you know, real one as opposed to like mine and my dad's. Brian, I'm trying to talk into giving a case study on his site at BADCamp this year at the Backdrop Summit, which I think will be great. I also think if you wanted to do like a trial run case study on backdropcms.org and we're interested in doing that in the form of like a blog post, that might also be really interesting content. So if you wanted to kind of do that as a strategy of figuring out what to say at the summit, that might be a good exercise, and it would be the same content both times, so it wouldn't be duplication of effort.
That sounds reasonable.
That would be fantastic. And we are setting up a showcase section, and your site is the first one we have a bunch of screenshots in there for. So that would be really kind of nice if we could get those going at the same time. You're like, here's the case study, and by the way, it's in the showcase. Then people can kind of go take a more in-depth look over all of the different screenshots of the site, different resolutions and different pages and stuff. That would be kind of a good pairing to get those together. All right, so we also have a meta issue about blog posts, which is number 158 in the backdropcms.org queue. If anyone has other good ideas about things that should go on the blog, we can get them into that list. I know we've had a bunch of people mention interest in things but not have time. If anyone else, you know, you hear about someone who has a good idea, if you can encourage them to add a comment to that issue, we can definitely get anyone into the queue. It's just a matter of like spreading the word. Like, how do we tell you we want your posts on Backdrop? Maybe we should have Twitter start doing something on it where it's like, hey, have something to share about Backdrop? You can write a post on our blog. I don't know. Other ideas about how to get people writing more for us, I think would be good. So it's less on us to come up with the content and more on all the people who have the content. Okay, another thing that came up, I think, at one of our first outreach meetings was this idea of creating videos. Like, we have a lot of compelling reasons to use Backdrop, and we wanted to create a bunch of videos for backdropcms.org that was like, here's an example of something you can do with Backdrop. But we don't have anybody making videos. The last meeting, Alberto joined, and he had all of these great ideas about videos that we could be doing in Spanish, which was super appealing to me because I think it'll help us do a better job of spreading the word about Backdrop in places that don't use English as their primary language, specifically Latin America, where we've had a ton of interest already in Backdrop, and I would love to do a better job of meeting the needs of those people as well. So I see that you've posted your first video into Google Drive, it looks like, which is super exciting to me. I'm really looking forward to watching it. We should maybe come up with a process of figuring out like how to get these posted as Backdrop. Like, is Google Drive the right place for them to live? Should we put them in like a Backdrop folder and have Backdrop like automatically tweet when they're available? Should we just give you access to the Backdrop YouTube channel and you can start posting them there? I don't know if anyone has any feelings on that.
Yeah, the YouTube channel, what we've been doing is if a video is published to YouTube that we didn't create but is of interest, we have our channel, and if we can add videos that other people publish to our channel.
Okay, that's good, because then the person who creates them still gets the credit of it being their video.
Yep.
Okay. So
yeah, and that's what we did for some of our super early videos before we even had before we even had the channel. Like I did a couple of videos, and then after the fact went and added them to the channel. And I think we did that for one other item as well. So.
Okay.
So is there an interest? Is there an interest in having a bunch of these videos that are official Backdrop CMS that are going to be hosted on your channel? Or are you looking more for people to do their own videos, post them, and then let you know where the links are so you can share them in?
I would say both. We need both. I would love to have as many people as possible talking about Backdrop that's not us, but I also think we should have our own official, tutorials or whatever showcase. I don't know, whatever we're going to come up with. We just don't have anyone right now who can create that video content for us. So I think the more we can get other people doing it and broadcast what they're doing, the better. But eventually, at some point, we will want to have our own.
Yeah, this is the one initiative I'm completely interested in diving in some way and helping out. I mean, I've got a pretty decent selection of editing tools available from Premiere Pro to Camtasia and other things, and have been playing around with After Effects quite a bit. So, I mean, anyone jumping into one of my channels can say I've been putting in a lot of logo stings and getting pretty good at using that type of stuff to create a intro, outro. So, I mean, this is definitely an area where I'd like to, be in the loop for sure, because this is where I think I can lend some serious help.
That would be fantastic. We definitely need, a whole bunch of different kinds of videos. And for those of you who don't know, Brian also has like some pretty good system administrator chops too. So you could do like a technical, like how to install Backdrop on your server, or like how to configure Git, or like there's a bunch of more technical stuff you could do too. That's not just user interfacey stuff. And you've got like the right environments to do it. But I think like because our initial audience, we're going after people who are primarily the user interfacey users. That might be the place to start. So I don't know if maybe you want to watch Alberto's video. We could try and figure out if we could do like a pairing of like here's one in Spanish and here's one in English that's like of similar content. That might be kind of fun. I don't know. I don't want anyone to feel left out. We have all these fantastic videos in Spanish. All our English speakers are going to be like Google translating.
I shared the video in Google Drive because maybe you want to review previews to publish it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can look at it. But also, Brian, if there's anything in particular that you want to do, I would say like the videos will probably come across the best when it's something you're passionate about too. So if there's something you're like, I love this particular feature in Backdrop, I didn't have this in my Drupal site, I'm going to demo this, that would be really compelling too. Even if they're short, like 5-minute or less videos, that's totally fine. And that might be a great place to start too, where you're like, I want to try, I'm going to add an intro slide, an outro slide, and I only need a couple minutes of content. Here's something fun, and just make it. So I would say maybe let's do that for your first one. Find something you're passionate about and do that. I think I said the same thing to Alberto do last time. And we'll take it from there and see where it goes.
Sounds good.
Okay, and then Alberto, do you have your own YouTube account?
Yes, I have my account, and I have this video in my YouTube account. I can share it to your account, or you can.
I think if you posted it on YouTube as your own account, that would probably be best right now, and then we can add it to our official channel in YouTube so that you get the credit for being the creator of the video, but then we can curate it into a list of videos about Backdrop.
Okay. Now I have it private. I'm waiting for your approval.
Okay. Yeah, I'll watch it today. I'm excited. I saw it in there. I was like, oh, I forgot this video was here. So, yeah, it'll be fun.
On YouTube, I don't know if anyone, if you guys have seen this or know this, I found this out not too long ago, so I don't know how long the functionalities existed, but if your YouTube channel is set up under YouTube, then obviously Google gives you one login, one user. But I found, and I did this with the Bootfitters channel, but if you attach your YouTube channel to your plus.google.com account, which was a little bit of a pain in the ass, then all of a sudden you can assign managers. So now, like, I look at our official YouTube channel, and I can have various people, and you can give them permissions. These people can modify, they can upload news. So I'm just throwing that in there because, you know, if that hasn't been done, there is a way to take the official Backdrop channel and say, well, we do want to have other content people that can contribute in. Here's your access, and it's fully revocable by the channel owner. So.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think we are already hooked up because in order to get the Google Hangouts to do the live broadcasting on YouTube, they had to be associated. So that might be something we just look into and figure out how to, like, you know, give you access to the channel and give public access or whatever we need. All right. Yeah, I think this is a great thanks, everybody, for all of the feedback and work done on videos already. I'm really looking forward to see how that evolves. The next item on our agenda is events, and we have a couple of events that various people in the community have been attending all year. I would love to get more write-ups from people. I know there's somebody who attended Drupal Camp Asheville. I wanted to get a write-up on that, and just other little bits of news about, you know, what was your major takeaway from the camp? How did people respond to having Backdrop? That sort of thing, just so people know that we're out there. But I would also love to have Backdrop attend events that are not Drupal events too, to try and start branching out. Like, over the long term, Drupal events are not going to be the right place for Backdrop, and trying to find a larger developer community that we can tap into before we have a community that's large enough to do our own events. I mean, I think we could probably do a small Backdrop event even starting this year. But I would love to have other places where we can go and talk to people about Backdrop that aren't already people who know about it. So we've got a list here of events that we should maybe go to, and Jack, looks like you're adding some, so thanks for that as well. Some of them have fairly hefty ticket prices, as opposed to all of these Drupal events that we're used to attending for free. And so it would be good to try and see, like, what the hurdles are to getting into those events. Like, do we need to have a booth? Do we need to give a talk? Like, what are the kinds of things we should be doing? And try and judge the cost of attending them against the value of doing it. Because some of them I think are going to be super, super valuable, and even though they have like a $500 ticket fee, it would totally be worth it to send one person, if not more than one. And if we have anyone in our group that are going to these events anyway, maybe leveraging them to, like, hand out T-shirts or stickers or whatever and talk to people about stuff while there might be the best way to leverage attendance at an event like that. Give more talks, stuff like that. Jack, do you want to add anything there about events or?
Yeah, so I put a couple here. I don't know if this is where the running list should be. Oh yeah, and Badcamp is definitely one we should talk about. But so I put on the Aspiration Nonprofit Software Development Summit, which folks were at last year, which was exciting, and I think the response was enthusiastic. I know people will be excited to hear more about it, and it's a non-Drupal space that's really kind of up our alley. So I'll be there. Other folks from Palante will be there. But I'd also encourage, like, other folks who maybe even, like, just Backdrop developers and folks who are more on the code end of things, like, if they haven't gotten to go to a space where you're kind of working with other devs or talking with other devs who are in the nonprofit sector, it might be a good spot to go. That's a non-Drupal spot for folks working on code and everything like that. So putting that out there. And then CivicCon, again, the folks there were interested in getting people from Backdrop involved in that, which is happening in May in St. Louis. And I know, again, Palante folks are going to be there, so in terms of leveraging people to hand out materials or just generally talk about stuff, that's definitely there. But I bet there's room for more substantial, you know, I mean, Backdrop plus CivicCRM is really awesome for nonprofits, so I feel like people will be excited to hear more about it, see demos, learn how to implement, etc.
Okay. That sounds great. I know Nate and I went to the Nonprofit Developer Summit last year, and we had such a good time, like, regardless of the fact that Backdrop was kind of a hit. Like, the conference itself was so different in the way that it conducted itself. It was a very eye-opening experience, and we just loved every bit of it. So I definitely highly recommend it. And that was something that you and Mike and there were like a whole bunch of people recommended it to me And I was like, I don't know. And then I went, and I'm just like, oh my God, they're all right. This is amazing. So it's definitely something I recommend to anyone who's interested in coming, even if you're not local to the Bay Area. It is a fantastic event.
Mm-hmm. And it's only, for most folks, $150 to attend. So
yeah.
I think it's like $150 if you work for an organization up to like $1 million budget or something. So, you know, it might be more for some folks. But.
All right, so let's talk about Bad Camp. We have a backdrop summit. We did a little backdrop summit there last year, where in the first half of the day we did sort of a our standard backdrop presentation, followed by some training exercises where we just kind of did a little hands-on backdrop experience, and then in the afternoon we just did kind of an open request to the audience about what it is they want to talk about or wanted to see demos of, and we filled in the rest of the day with a little bit of extra content. We had some talks. I think Wes, you gave a talk on theme stuff, and I don't think Darius gave a talk, although he was available. I don't know. This year, I'm trying to change it up a little bit because we might be doing both the summit and a training on the following day. And so I wanted to remove all of the training content from the summit and make sure that way if people attended both events, they wouldn't be getting any duplication. And so what I thought we would do is fill in that gap with demonstrations of software that integrates with Backdrop, as well as case studies of people who actually own Backdrop sites and what they're getting from them in the wild. Where we didn't have a whole ton of Backdrop sites this time last year. I think, Brian, we did a demo of your site there, so we're like, look how cool this site is, but that was the only site I had to talk about. So I was like, alrighty then, well, this is a theoretical example of how that might work. Whereas this year there are a whole bunch of sites out there, people are running Backdrop, and I think people are really appreciating it, and so it would be great to get more of those people talking about Backdrop. So Brian, if you're there, getting you to talk about your own site would be good, rather than me talking about how much I loved building it. And then I know we've got someone from Calamuna who's written a bunch of blog posts on Backdrop. We're going to get them to do a case study of the site that they most recently launched on it, which is this California job site. And then I also thought it would be great to get someone to do a demo of Calabox and someone to do a demo of Pantheon. Hopefully somebody from Calabox to do Calabox and somebody from Pantheon to do Pantheon, but I haven't found someone from Pantheon yet. But I was also thinking we should open it up to anyone else who wants to talk about anything that they have been working on or that they want to see in Backdrop. So I don't know, Wes, if you want to do another. You're not coming to Bad Camp this year, are you? Maybe? No? Okay. Well, anyway, anyone, Jack, I don't know if you're going to be there, but I was thinking it might be kind of fun to open up and say, like, for 15-minute segments, like I'm not asking for a lot of content from you, 15, 20 minutes, pick something that you want to share with people, and we can just kind of have a whole bunch of little lightning talk style things where it's like, here's 15 minutes of something I think is cool, 5 minutes to talk about it, 15 minutes, 5 minutes, and just get a bunch of topics with a bunch of different people. And the more people we have involved, I think the more interesting conversations we're going to end up having. So yeah, if anyone has any interest in speaking, that would be great. If anyone wants to come to Bad Camp but doesn't have money, Bad Camp has a scholarship program, so you can apply at 2016.badcamp.net. Under the community section, there's an application for scholarships. So if you want to come from anywhere, you know, we have budgets for travel, international, domestic. So I think we're running out of time on scholarship applications, so definitely get those in soon if you want to come. And last year, I think we accepted all the scholars, just for reference. We're like, we don't have that many, let's just bring them all. So we didn't have to make any hard decisions, which is good. But yeah, anyone have any thoughts on other things we should do at Bad Camp this year at the summit?
Well, I bet y'all can guess that CiviCRM would probably be a good thing to feature there. So I'm down to do a case study, but the Civi folks also said that they have some partners that are planning to attend Bad Camp.
Okay.
So we can also hit up those folks either to, you know, specifically attend the summit or the training, but also possibly to do a case study. I don't know who else. I think there are 2 Backdrop CiviCRM installs being reported in the world right now, so they might both be Palantes. I don't know who else's they are, but we definitely have 2 running right now. So they might not be launched, but happy to kind of show folks like where is this at if you're considering an upgrade and you have Civi and you're concerned. That could be useful.
Okay.
Other thing is how, in terms of the training, how are y'all planning to do it, and do you need folks to train?
Yeah, so I would love that. So we've done the training at 3 camps this year, I think, and we did it at in January at Sand Camp, in Twin Cities, and in Iowa. And so we have an outline for the day, which I think we've got a shared folder for Backdrop training materials if anyone wants to look at that. But what we usually do is we do some follow-along site building in the morning where everybody walks through the process of setting up a portfolio website. We figure because we're talking to web developers, building them a portfolio site is something that they might identify with and actually appreciate. And so we go through the process of like creating content types and entering content, and we just highlight the differences between Backdrop and Drupal. So it's a very much focused on people who already know Drupal and want to know what's different. And then at the afternoon, we switch over and we start talking about code, and we show like the differences between theming in Backdrop and Drupal, and then we talk about layouts. We show what a layout looks like, and then we talk about modules. And depending on the level of the people in the class, which we ask them first thing in the morning, we can either do like a live module port. We've got a bunch of developers in the class, or we can switch and do like talk about upgrading from Drupal 7 or upgrading from Drupal 6, or just spend some time, brainstorming if people there have particular issues that they're concerned about. We can talk about how those problems might be solved in Backdrop. So it's definitely something where, we had one class where we didn't have any developers in the audience, and we're like, let's not write code in front of this group. It's not going to be valuable. And so instead we did a live update from Drupal 7 to Backdrop and showed how some of the field types that were in 7 that moved into Core are all just in Core, and you don't need to add those, and how fast the upgrade process goes, which is also kind of compelling too, where people think it's really scary and they're like, no, it's really the same. But I also think that if we end up with some great material on case studies, it might be good to include those, not at Bad Camp necessarily, because people might have seen it the day before, but long term, having like a 20-minute section of like, here are some case studies I can talk about, that might be a really good alternative for developer content if we don't have developers in the audience. So training material always in flux based on content that we develop and who's in the room, and what good ideas might arise at any given point that gets put in. But if we could get more trainers, I know it has been requested that we attend the DevOps Summit on Friday and do some talking about all of the continuous integration stuff that he's learned through setting up Backdrop. So we might lose him for an hour. I would love to not be alone doing the training. So if we have anyone else who wants to help, particularly in the morning, I think that would be great, because that's when he's probably not going to be around. And that's the kind of like why of Backdrop and the site building instructions. And we can definitely go over it ahead of time. And then more ideas about things to do in the training and in the summit would be good too. So Jack just asked the question of, is the Backdrop Summit going to be at the same time as the Nonprofit Summit again? Yes, but it's also going to be in the same space as the Nonprofit Summit again. So both events are currently scheduled to happen in the Marsh on Thursday, and Backdrop Summit is going to be in the bar area in the front of the building, and the Nonprofit Summit is going to be in the theater in the back of the building. So even though the content will be going on at the same time, we're hoping that people will be able to easily move from one to another. So I think if we can if we can come up with a schedule and the nonprofit can come up with a schedule, we can show each other, we might be able to work it out so that like our breaks line up, and then that way if people want to move from one to another easily, they can decide there's something they don't want or they do want, we can kind of shuffle around our schedule to make it easy enough for people to go from one to another. So hopefully that'll work out. It worked pretty well last year. We got some people who came over after lunch. All right, well, we'll talk about the Backdrop Summit again in half an hour at the next meeting, because I want to try and get the developers wrangled up for Bad Camp. But it sounds like we're on a pretty good track. Advertising. So this is something that I think might be valuable for Backdrop if we can come up with advertising budget. We could figure out whether it's worth putting ads on Google or Facebook, particularly targeted at Drupal 6 or Drupal 7 site owners. I think Facebook in particular has a really good way of figuring out who should see what ads based on the ads they're showing me. Like, we can probably get this to exactly our audience if we wanted to do that. And on Google, you can target your ads towards specific search terms. So if somebody's like Drupal alternative or upgrading from Drupal, that might be a good way to kind of get those people's attention too. But I know that right now we don't have a lot of money for budget because we're planning on spending all of our money on T-shirts. But it would be good to figure out how much something like that would cost and see if we can come up with a reasonable budget so we can get more word about Backdrop out through advertising. So I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on how that might work or might not work, or if anyone has any interest or experience in the online advertising world and wants to set that up for us, that would be even better. I set up a couple of ads for Drupal training back in the day, and I remember it being not nearly as complicated as I had originally anticipated, but also a lot more expensive than I had originally anticipated. So that's why we need to come up with a budget in there so that we don't accidentally spend all of our T-shirt money on advertising and then we can't get any more T-shirts for anyone. All right, so next, and also fairly important. Oh.
Quick, sorry, I'm super talkative today, but so just flagging two things for me. One is like ethical considerations of using these creepy advertisers. I know everyone does it, but you know, Facebook advertising is very creepy and disturbing. I was reading all the data points they gather, like how much credit debt you have and stuff like that, and then they use that to influence what they advertise to you and give that info to advertisers. It's creepy. Yeah. So just flagging that, like, it's not like some kind of hard block, but it would be like just the like, is this the way to spend our money, kind of feeding into this gathering of personal data and using it for...
Is it just as bad on Google?
I feel like, I don't know. I feel like Facebook has our Facebook stuff. Google has all our email. Like, it's really hard to tell which one is worse. So, yeah. So that's just my flag. Also, I mean, I guess it's very effective, but I don't know if our audiences are more likely to have ad blockers on. Like, I actually never see Facebook ads. So, yeah.
I feel like the kinds of people who are going to have ad blockers on are probably going to find out about us other ways. It's the people that, like, the people that are likely to be on Facebook and the people that are likely to not have ad blockers, like, that's kind of our, like, those are the people we're competing against WordPress for. And so I feel like, yeah, there's some super sketchiness around that data, but it's also, like, exactly our target. But I don't necessarily feel like we need to put money into that system, like, to feed the monster. I would be definitely happy starting with, like, a search terms thing on Google where it's like, we don't care who it is, but if they search for this word, we want an ad. Like, that seems less creepy, at least on the surface. Yeah, and it also might be a good way to kind of keep our budget low. If we started with something super minimal on one site and just saw how it performed, it would be a good kind of place to experiment safely and see what happened. So.
Yeah. I like what Wes writes too about curating for certain sites that'll, like, reach audiences. Maybe even things like I know it's a Drupal thing, but the daily drop or the weekly drop, stuff like that could be good.
Yeah, that could be good. Or I don't know if Stack Overflow does ads, but there might be good ways to.
They do, and I think they also curate them. They don't use an ad service. There's a couple sites like that, and it's generally techie or basically our audience. I tend to do that.
Okay, that sounds good. Let me just add that to the list. Okay. Anything else on advertising? I'll move on to website. No. Okay. So for the website, we have a website, hooray! But it is not super geared towards our particular target audience. It's just kind of a website because we needed a website. And I think we're getting better about having useful content on it. It would be good if we could get it particularly optimized for search, so people who are looking for Drupal alternatives or don't know the name is Backdrop can find us. Would be really great. I also think it would be good if we could make it a little more compelling as a sales pitchy type thing, so that people who are like looking for, I want something that I can show my boss that this is why we need to use Backdrop. Our homepage lists a bunch of bullet items that don't really have any explanation. We've turned that into a content type, so we can do kind of a longer explanation of like why. We can add a video, we can add screenshots, and we're working on getting those done too, which will be good. But I also think like having just a one-page thing about like this is why Backdrop wins would be great, where people can just kind of say, here's all of the things that I believe in, that Backdrop also believes in, that are important, that, whether it's a philosophical thing or a budget thing or whatever, like, so we can target, here, read this, and then people will understand what Backdrop's about would be really good. I also think we have a lot of things we're planning on doing to the website long term, and they aren't listed anywhere clearly. We have a issue queue, backdropcms.org issue queue on GitHub, where we have a whole bunch of ideas that come in, and a lot of them get addressed and a lot of them don't. And it's hard to know like what the path forward is for that. So having a roadmap for the website would be equally useful, as well as we have a roadmap for this product. Just having some kind of a long-term goal of what we're doing there would be handy. But yeah, trying to figure out how to make the website more useful to people. We're obviously working on the support section. We have a landing page. We're working on setting up a documentation area. We're working on setting up a forum. We're thinking about so Mike also had mentioned maybe we should put something for each target audience onto the homepage and try and divide the site into different target audiences. And I noticed that that was like a big trend for a while on the web, and I wasn't sure it actually worked. And I was wondering if anyone had any metrics on, like, if you say this section is for you, do people actually like go there? Like, is it effective? Because in terms of organizing information, it seems like unorganizing the information, and as I don't know. It seems like separating everything into two sections is like a duplication of content, where if you could just kind of steer that person towards the section they wanted, that would be better than disorganizing it. But I don't know, like, I don't actually have any metrics on what works and what doesn't. Nate, are you talking? Your mic is muted. Sure. No, okay. You're yawning or something.
No, just hanging with my mouth open, that's all.
Do we have a Google Analytics account or something like that?
We do, and we have data coming in, but I don't know what to do with the data.
I'm pretty good at that. I'm not an expert, but I've been doing it for Lullabot a lot lately. I'm good enough to be dangerous, so I'd be interested in looking at that, and then maybe I can help measure some of the things that you're interested in, set up a couple dashboards, all that fun jazz.
Yeah, that would be great. Do you have? Should I share the Gmail thing or the Google Analytics thing with your Gmail address, or do you have a different address that you do all of your analytics magic on?
Either one. Oh, we're west.ruvacaba@lullabot or westrov@gmail. Either one's fine.
Okay. I'll figure it out and send it to you after this, because that would be great. So we do have analytics coming in, but I know at one point we tried to add like extra analytics tags to our website, and we broke a whole bunch of JavaScript, so we took it off again. But yeah, maybe if we could help get that going again too. Like, we wanted to record like what people were searching for on the modules page, but we added and then quickly removed that feature. So yeah, anything else we should also be recording that doesn't come by default with Google, we can figure that out.
Yeah, there's a number of things, and this will be really good. Yep, hit me.
Okay, great, fantastic.
I had something kind kind of about the website and advertising. So Nate and I had a conversation with Matt Tift about this, and I don't know how he feels about this, but I thought it was interesting. Dr. Tift wanted messaging around kind of our I'm just gonna say cultural values, and hate that I said that, but just kind of like more of, he wanted to, like, he likes Debian because it's like anti-corporate kind of whatever stuff, and like that they're trying to help out people, not, you know, whatever. And I feel like that's in a lot of our DNA, not necessarily in Backdrop, but it's not in Backdrop. I didn't know if I think you could pull some strong advocates with that kind of messaging, especially since we have like the nonprofit angle. I mean, I'd hope the nonprofit's focused on, you know, helping people, and not like, you know, a nonprofit that's focused on starting a war in some new country. But you know, I think that there's something there, and it could get us some really passionate users, if not contributors.
So yeah, I can elaborate on that too. Is that so the message that we're using right now is primarily driven by cost. That we're saying that we're an affordable thing. It's written, like, we wrote it right into our mission statement, that affordability was important to us, and we wrote it as that way because we thought that that would be compelling, and that probably is for a lot of people, that cost is a major factor. But his point was that right now our entire messaging is driven around economics or capitalism, and that he really wanted our message to reflect, some of our messaging to reflect our ideals, not just the financial association that we have. So he was saying that, like, we have a lot of ideas that are, like, you know, about, you know, information and doing good and things like that, but that's not our primary message. Our message is just that we're more affordable. And so so it's a good point that, like, some people care more about ideas and philosophy than they do about cost, and that for him, he would be more compelled if we had that more in as part of our primary messaging rather than the cost of the software. So I'm not sure how large that audience is, but I see exactly what his point was, that there's some that we've been slanting our messaging awfully hard in one direction, probably because we feel like it's the most effective message, but that there's other messages that we could be using as well.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel like, you know, the numbers, there are definitely going to be a lot more people that at the end of the day it comes down to how much something costs, and it doesn't really matter what their ideals are. But I also think, like, because we do have these ideals that there are a bunch of people who agree with, we should write them down somewhere. And, like, maybe we don't change our mission statement, but we definitely have a page that's like, this is what we believe in. That's a little more detailed, that goes into all that stuff, so that the people like Matt Tift can find that information and be like, okay, I can get behind this product. Okay, for sure, it's for nonprofits because of budget, but look what they believe in. And I think having that written down and clearly stated would be really useful. Yeah, because I think we need to. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it also occurs to me that, like, the expense stuff is a real good sell for site owners down the road, or people who are, like, trying to choose a product for like how their site's going to be built. But things about the organizational culture and, like, the project culture are good for potential participants and other open source developers. You know, y'all have seen the fights I've gotten into probably, or maybe some of you might have seen fights I've gotten into in Drupal world, and I feel like I have a relatively limited perspective, but I was at the hackerspace I belong to talking to someone about how she feels like corporate tech is way easier for women and people of color and trans folks and LGBTQ folks to be within than open source space, which is like there's no rules, there's like all this drama that goes down, like this and that. So that was a funny thing to me, because I'm like the open source advocate in the space, and she works at Indiegogo, so we're always like, you know, knocking heads. But I was like, oh, like that hasn't been, that is kind of a little bit what I've experienced in Drupal, but not as bad as she's making it sound. But it's not what I've experienced in Backdrop. And even though in Backdrop we are still small, we have a relatively small community, and it still does represent lots of these trends that you see in other open source communities around representation and things like that. There's things to work on, but that's a sell that we can sell more to folks. And maybe if we feature some language around like, these are our values as a community, here's who we want to include, here's how we want to make sure that folks can stay involved in our community, it could really help. Like, putting that message out there can help with representation and inclusion and folks getting involved and stuff like that from the get-go.
That sounds great. Would you be interested in writing up that page?
Well, you know, I figured that if I was going to do that speech, I'd probably have to volunteer. So yes, and I'm also like kind of probably not supposed to take on anything ever again, given my Palante workload. So I might need help kind of staying accountable to that. Like, you know, someone's accountability buddy or something to check in with me in like a week and see where I'm at.
We can also build on our existing pages for like the philosophy page and the project management page, because I know that we have, you know, our what do we call them, Jen? Not stakeholders, but the you know, the particular facets that we want to make sure are covered in the project management. What's that?
Constituents.
Constituents, yes, thank you. Yeah, and that's also in a large part, like we're trying to maintain diversity in that, in our management as well. And so we could ham it up a bit on the PMC page, just saying like, you know, and actually, I mean,
I think it would be good to have a dedicated page that talks about culture, and then have statements on all of those other pages that refer people to the culture page. Because I think it would be good to have something for Matt Tiff to read that's like, this is what it is, where you don't have to kind of infer from all of the other pages on the site what's going on. But I do think that maybe like those other pages should be rewritten with that new statement in mind, so that it like you get the same feeling regardless of where you are on the site. It's like, this is what we stand for, and this is how these pages are written this way. But I think I would love to see it be a standalone page in addition to like thought to how to fix the management page and the philosophy page and all that other stuff too. I don't know where we're going to put it. Maybe on the about page, like the first page or something.
Well, I'd be down to take a look, because I think what y'all say is true. Like, the site already has a whole lot that lots of other projects don't come out with from the get-go, like decision-making process, structure, etc. So I think it would be good to take a look at what's already on the site, to get a sense for like the tone and just like the structure already. Figure out, I think a standalone page could be good, and then working that into each of the sections that already exist. So I could like take a look and, you know, propose a page and then how to work it into other stuff. That could be my next steps.
Okay, that sounds great.
Cool. If someone could check, maybe the check-in will be the next outreach meeting. By then, I should at least have something to propose. So.
Okay, that sounds fantastic.
Sweet.
Other ideas? Anything that we should be doing to help get the word out about Backdrop that we're not doing?
I had one more thing to say on the PMC.
Okay.
Sorry, I know it's not a new thing, but I was thinking that we could, maybe this is discussion actually for PMC members, maybe we could, I feel like we could add some more personality and by showing the profile pictures of everybody that's in the PMC, like maybe it's like, you know, in a circle or something like that, showing like, you know, these are the PMC members, as opposed to the bullet list that we have right now, just to show, like, to add some human to our project, because right now it's all just data, you know. So That's it.
Okay. I think that's a good recommendation. I was actually thinking about that too, like trying to make the site more human everywhere. But yeah, that's a good first step. Okay. What about our PMC members who don't have a photo? Is it okay to put the dragon up there? Or should we harass them and be like, please add a photo? Okay. Do all the things. Okay. Well, our next meeting starts in 5 minutes, so if nobody has anything else that we need to be working on in terms of outreach, or, yeah, you can add it in the issue queue somewhere, I guess. I think there's a tag, I think it's called like audience marketing. We should change it to something like outreach, but if you want to add anything after this meeting, like if you watch this video and you have a thought, put it in the backdropcms.org issue queue, and the tag audience marketing is the stuff that we review for this meeting. So there's a place to record things when we're not talking. Okay, well, thank you all for coming. Yeah, great feedback from everyone. I'm so excited we've got people participating in this, because this is the one thing that I felt like I'm really bad at. I don't really know how to do it, and getting more people who know what they're doing is definitely better for Backdrop. So thank you all for coming. Thank you all for the amazing videos and feedback and ideas, and we will see some of you in 5 minutes.
Yeah, take care, y'all. I'm skipping the next one, but good to see y'all.
Okay.
All right, bye.
Hey, thanks.
Bye.